What up, what up, what up, what up? It's me, L Teddy 27.
What's good tonight? Right about the hood.
Oh, dear God, I'm already eating a drink. Look, a damn mess. Just a damn mess. No means no, and yes means no. What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What's good, people? What's up? It's me, L Teddy 27. I know I'm excited because I'm back for another review. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be our review for Lovecraft Country. This is season 1, episode 6. It is entitled Meet Me in Daegu. Now, let me say this as I'm turning in my notes. This review is going to be a little different from my regular reviews. Y'all know, normally when I do reviews, I will do a review and a recap at the same time, where I will go scene by scene by scene, and we'll talk about what happened in that scene, and then we'll break down, add commentary, insights, so forth and so on. This time, I'm going to do it a little different, kind of like the creators and writers of Lovecraft Country. I feel like each episode they give us this different take on horror, and they give us this different take on different things. In the same regard, that's what we're doing here. So I'm going to do that for you here now. Now, Lovecraft Country this week was so good. So many people talked about how they did or did not enjoy this episode. I thoroughly enjoyed this week's episode. This week's episode was one of my favorite ones so far. One of my favorite episodes so far, by far, easily one of my favorite episodes. So let's break it down and let's talk about, like I said, I'm not going to give you the old regular, let me do a recap. Nah, we're going to break down, just some of the things that we saw and just give it to you raw. All right. So let's talk about certain things that happened. Let's start off talking about how it is set in Daegu, Korea, I believe South Korea. And it starts off in 1949, and it takes us along these seasons. All right. From 1949, I believe by the end of the episode, we are in 1950 or 51, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all gonna correct me in the comment section. Anyway, so one of the things that we start off by seeing is we see this young Korean girl whose name is Gia. And Gia is sitting in this movie theater, and she's watching Judy Garland, a Judy Garland film, and she's enamored with Judy Garland, and she has this beautiful daydream of her singing Judy Garland song and so forth. Now, what interested me was, did y'all notice how outside of this film and some of the quotes that she makes of other Judy Garland films, the whole first half of the episode was in Korean? We got no English. Yet you didn't feel robbed. Like a lot of times when I have shows where I feel like I have to keep looking at the subtitles, I feel like it takes away from what I'm watching. I didn't feel that way this time. So then we get to see so many great yin and yangs, dualities, and I know we talked about that in another review, but there's so many parallels that we see in this episode. So here you have this girl who's in this empty theater, and then there's a couple over there talking, but she doesn't pay them any mind, and they even leave, and she's just so enamored, and she's watching this Judy Garland, and she loves it so much, but then at the same time she's tears in her eyes, and they don't appear to be tears of joy. These appear to be tears of pain and anguish, while she's also happy. And so I was like, wow, where are they going to take us this week? And so I was so excited about that. Also, they put up the title credit screen like they normally do, and so I took for granted that they showed you the title of the episode, Meet Me in Daegu, and then they gave you this Korean writing, and I immediately thought that that's what the Korean writing was, and I spoke to my best friend about it. My best friend told me, hey, bruh, that does not say Meet Me in Daegu in Korean. That is the Korean word Kumiho. We later find out what the Kumiho is, and so forth. And so I was like, oh, I would have never caught that because I don't speak Korean. And so never caught that. But my best friend caught it. He loves Lovecraft Country as much as I do. Anyway, so then we go on. We get this, we get introduced to Gia and her mother. And her mother seems harsh in the beginning. She seems cold. She seems callous toward her daughter. Her daughter seems so loving. The mother seems harsh. and cold. And I immediately thought about Tick and Montrose, because Tick, you want to love Tick. Tick is this protagonist. Tick is somebody who you want to root for, and you see it for Tick, and you feel all of his emotions like you do with Gia. And then they have this cold and callous parent that does not see it for them, ain't here for them, gives them zero to no emotions at all. So like I said, I immediately equated this to Tick and what he has going on with his dad, Montrose. Not knowing that Montrose has his own backstory, just like Gia's mother, what is her name? Sunha, or something like that. She has her own backstory as well, which I wish we could get into. Maybe we will in subsequent seasons. I don't know. But that's what I immediately thought about. But then after that, we see that she's in nursing school and so forth. And we get to points where she's going on these, what they call the meeting. And she went there with some of the other nurses. And it's like the speed dating thing. And you notice immediately there's this, she's not comfortable. Like, I'm not going to say she's not comfortable, but people in her country are not comfortable with her. They are not open. She's not well liked. It seems like she's awkward. Like, the men don't really see it for her like that. Beautiful girl, but they just don't see it for her. And I just kept wondering, like, why? And so she starts quoting this these lines from a Judy Garland film with one of them, and one of the men immediately say, hey chick, we have the Japanese come over here and pretty much eradicate and erase our whole history. And we're doing everything we can to keep our own history, but yet you over here, immersing yourself in American propaganda with Judy Garland and all this foolishness. We don't want no parts of that. And so what I could tell is that Korea at that time the Koreans were a people doing everything they can to hold on to culture and things that made them a nation and made them a group of people. And so she then meets this other guy, and the other guy is just as much into Judy Garland as she is. And they have this whole dialogue, and I'm thinking, oh, great. She finally met somebody, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to cross you off. And I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe he liked her, but felt like other people may not like her, and that he might be judged because he liked her. And, because you notice that she's awkward around other Koreans. And so I felt like the guy felt like maybe his family or friends and things would not understand her and get her the way he does. And he didn't want to have to deal with all of that. And don't ask me how I got all of that and just seeing the man cross the name out. But I felt that way in how he was so enamored with her. And they seemed to have so much in common. But at the end of the day, he was still like, yeah, I might not want to go down that road. Anyway, and then we have this whole thing where her best friend, Youngja, I immediately thought Youngja. I immediately thought Youngja, that'd be a cool rap name nowadays. But, whatever. Youngja, I think it was Youngja or whatever, but it was Youngja on the screen. She had this whole lesbianic thing. You know what I'm saying? When she was hitting on her best friend, she was telling her best friend, oh, you don't have to be normal. It's okay to be different and all this, that, and the third. And I was like, oh, girl, you touching on her, feeling on her. I was like, ooh. So you immediately were immersed in all of this Korean culture, and you were immersed in GI and who she was, and you became immediately enamored with her. Beautiful Korean girl. And now the funny part is, so she got invited to this to the bar or whatever with her best friend and some other people, and we saw her awkwardness and we saw how nobody liked her. Well, she was awkward around others of her own country and culture, and how hard it was for her to find an actual boyfriend or mate or man. But then when she went to the club, how easy it was for her to be a whore and find some man that was willing to bang her guts out, a man who we later find out is married with kids. So I was like, oh, Gia, are you a common whore? Looks like it to me. Anyway, so after that, she takes the man home. They start to do the do. And then we see like these furry tentacles come out her ears and her eyes and her mouth and out from underneath her, and it goes inside the man, his rectum and his eyes, his nose, his mouth, and then he explodes. But when the tentacle, well, actually their tails goes into his eyes, she gets this visual of his whole life story, and that's how you find out that he's actually married and has kids, and was this successful man who does stuff, and she kills him. His blood splatters all over her. I was like, ooh, that was kind of gruesome. Cool, but gruesome. And then it takes you to, if you study horror, you learn about K-horror, which is Korean horror, which is one of the Asian forms of horror, where it deals a lot with animals and things like that. And, you find out that their horror is in your face. They don't care. They ain't gonna cut you no corner. They ain't gonna try and pussyfoot you around. They ain't gonna try to ease you in. They gonna go right for the gusto, straight to Final Jeopardy. And that's what we got early on. Straight to Final Jeopardy. Anyway, so then the next thing I noticed was she goes back to this movie theater and you see her, she's watching she's getting ready to watch a Judy Garland film again, and everything is about to be nice. And when she watches Judy Garland, she's transported into this other time and space, and everything is so good and everything is great, and it's interrupted by what? American tanks, rumbling through the city, disturbing the film. She has to go outside, and here we have the spreading of the American empire. Imperialism at its best. We here in the anthropomorphic country of these yet to be United States of America, we love spreading what we got everywhere else. It's our own version of imperialism. We just think every other country has to do everything the way we do it. We don't want to call it imperialism. We don't want to call it taking over other countries and forming an empire. But really, that's what it is. Imperialism at its best. Where everybody got to do everything the way you want them to do it. Or you're going to go over there and bomb them. A mess. Anyway, so then we have this other yin and yang duality. The very same country that brings her so much joy in the form of Judy Garland is the very same country responsible for all of this horrible stuff and atrocities and for the decimation of her country and so forth. And she goes outside, she sees these big tanks, and you see American soldiers saying, "Oh, America's here to save you. Don't be alarmed. Don't be scared. We are the savior. We are the white men that are here to save you, because the glorious white man descended from the Caucasus Mountains are the only people that can save you." Lord. Anyway, they're responsible for so many things. We saw them stand to the side while this communist Korean got murdered and hanged. We know that they're responsible for the death of her best friend. It's just, this duality here. And if you're going to get good from this one thing, you also going to get bad from this one thing. And it was almost like a metaphor for her. As beautiful as she was and as nice as she was. And at the beginning of this episode, as much as you wanted to love her and you wanted to be like, oh, she's such a great girl and she's so nice and she's so pretty and why are they picking on her? And then we see her turn into a monster and kill people. And we find out she's a whore who's soliciting almost 100 men so that she can kill them. And then we couple that with what we find out later. So we find out in this conversation between Jia and her mother that she was, her mother was a whore at one point as well. And her mother had sex out of wedlock. And her mother got pregnant with Jia. Jia was born. Her mother became a disgrace to her community. Her mother became a pariah. And her mother wanted to be loved by the rest of the community. Much so, and you could see that was passed on to Jia, because remember I told you at the beginning of the story how Jia, nobody wanted to like her. You felt like she didn't even love herself as much. And so that was placated on to everybody that she sat in front of when she went to the little speed date. Nobody wanted to like her. Nobody saw it for her. Everybody was cross her off. Her mother was the same way at one point. And her mother, was this, community pariah in that she had sex outside of marriage and she had a child outside wedlock. And so she was longing to be accepted by her country, so much so that she got with this man, and that man ended up raping her daughter. And so this one man that was supposed to end up being the savior, the one man that was supposed to be helping her, aiding her, and no longer in everything that she needed help and aid in within her community, ended up being the thing with which caused her demise and destruction, because that man raped her child. And because that man violated her child, now she had to go and conjure up magic and have this Kumiho enter her daughter, which will allow her to kill her husband. But now it's stuck in the daughter until the daughter kills 100 men. Beautiful storytelling. Yeah, beautiful storytelling. Anyway, but the blame is placed squarely on the mother for all of this. The Kumiho being inside of the daughter and everything, the daughter being raped by this man who the mother married simply because she wanted to be accepted within the community. All of the blame is laid at the feet of the mother. Even there was that whole dialogue about the mother not loving the daughter, GI, and not trying to love the daughter GI, because she saw the daughter as a monster because of the spirit that was inside of her instead of as still her daughter. There's this whole just like, oh my God, just cognitive dissonance that I was just loving, and I was eating it up. Y'all, I was just eating it up. Then we had this scene. We listen, we don't went halfway through the episode. We ain't seen not nary part of Tick, Letty, Montrose, nobody who we knew, until the nurses go to work and they line them up, get on the ground. Black man comes up, not Tick, some other black man. Hey, one of y'all is a communist spy. Oh, y'all don't want to tell me? Boom, shoots chick in the head. I was like, oh shit. I mean, they ain't even hold no punches. He was like, was it you? Was it you? Before she could answer, boom. Okay, somebody need to tell me something. He goes to the lady next to GI and he pulls the trigger, boom, and ain't no more guns. He was like, damn, ain't no more gun. He calls Tick over. We finally see Tick. Tick comes over, boom, shoots a lady in the head. I was like, ah! I said, Tick, what are you doing? This is not the Tick that I have grown to love. What the fuck? What happened to Tick? And now Tick immediately, in an instant, went from being the protagonist, this beloved character, to being someone who you were like, no, I don't like this Tick. I don't like this horrible person. That is Atticus. Because now he went from being Tick, who we love, to being Atticus. And we don't like Atticus. We like Tick. We don't like Atticus. So Atticus is what we'll call him. He's a soldier. They told him to kill the lady. He ain't even bat an eye. He shot the lady in the head, dead, blood splattered all over GI. And they went over to GI, and before they could get to GI, the best friend, Youngja, came over and said, it's me, I'm the person. They bust her in the head, knock her out, and then they take her off to go kill her. And this immediately, as it would anybody, I mean, GI is just like, oh my God. But I love how the writers so effortlessly and seamlessly turned Tick into this villain. Now he's an antagonist. He's an antagonist and not a protagonist. Such great acting and great writing. Anyway, the story goes on and on and on. There's soldiers, the nurses are still working in this infirmary, so forth and so on. One day, GI looks over. Who's over there all wounded and all of that stuff? Atticus. Atticus over there, eye busted all open, leg broken, all this. He's wounded. She looks over there and sees him and sees that this is the man that is responsible for her, one of the men responsible for her best friend diet, and is incensed. She is livid. I think all of us collectively were with her. Part of us still wanted him to be Tick and love Tick, but another part of us was like, that's Atticus, and we don't like Atticus. So Gia goes outside. She has this whole moment where she has to, let the rain wash down on her. She has blood all over her from all of the other patients and so forth. It's just a great scene right there. Anyway, we then have later on another scene that enamored me because I wear glasses as well. You see Tick in the hospital bed trying to read. Glasses all cracked, broken, anything. And if you wear glasses, you hate for your glasses to be dirty and foggy and smeared, much less be cracked. It is the most frustrating thing because you are doing everything you can to read. And in that moment, I got this whole metaphor thing where with the glasses situation, the reason that I took to the glasses situation was here you had these glasses, these things that are supposed to be there to help aid and assist Atticus, but are actually broken. So the thing that he was looking for so desperately to help him and to aid him, he finds out it's broken. And to me, that was what the military was for Tick. Tick went to the military to escape his dad. The military was supposed to help aid and help him escape his dad and get away and relieve him of all of the stress and tension it was back home in Chicago. And it wasn't helping him at all. It actually was broken. It was of no use to him. He wanted to throw the military aside just as hard as he threw the glasses aside. Beautiful metaphor there. Great there. Then after that, so I just, everything just started, the floodgates started flooding in on all of these thoughts I had. I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It was just great. So then we had, they have another interaction, Atticus, Gia, and he asks her to read the book. the Count of Monte Cristo. Because he can't, because his glasses are broken, and she still ain't feeling him. She still wants no parts of him. She started to see some softness in him, and the fact that he was they had this whole thing where he was trying to help her make the bed and everything, but she still wasn't feeling it. But when they had that moment with the book, the Count of Monte Cristo, he asked her to read the book. She tries to ruin the book for him. She tried to ruin the book. He'd be like, I'm almost finished, can you read it? And so she's still upset with him, and she tries, like anybody, to say, oh, I don't like you anyway, let me ruin the book. And she told him what she believed to be the ending. She'd never read the book. She'd only saw the movie, because she likes movies. And he tells her, hey boo, you must have saw the movie. The movie does not follow the book. All these things that you say you wish would have happened might have happened, but you don't know, because you don't know the actual story. You thought you saw the ending, but the ending that you knew is not the actual ending. Put a bookmark in what I just said. Let me say that again. This was the part right here. That part right there blew me away. It made the end of this episode make sense. She thought she knew the ending to that novel. She thought the ending of that novel, she was going to ruin it for Tick. She knew the ending of that novel. And it wasn't until Tick said, you didn't read the book. You thought you saw the ending, but what you saw is not what the real ending was. Here's the real ending. And why don't you experience the real ending with me? So Gia ended up having to be given the actual ending, not the ending she saw at first from the movie, but the real ending, and she had to experience that with Tick as she was reading the ending of the novel. We're going to go back to that part at the end of this episode. So much good stuff, y'all. I ain't even halfway done. Anyway, they talked about that being Montrose's favorite book, and then they had this whole conversation about their parents, and that was the first connection that we had. The first connection that we had was with the book, but sometimes initial connections aren't lasting. But the connection that bonded them together was the connection of neither one of them wanted to be who their parent wanted them to be. Both of them had parents that wanted them to be something, had parents that were hard. I talked to you at the beginning of this review how her mother reminded me of Montrose. And both of them, that was the connection that they had. They had parents who wanted them to be something they didn't want to be. They had parents that were way harder on them than they should have been, that seemed to be cold and callous. They also both have parents who have a story that they aren't privy to. They don't know the whole of their parents' story. So all they have to go by is the harshness of who their parents are as parents. And sometimes parents have to be that way. Great stuff here, y'all. So then we see that they, start dating or whatever. And so, she starts to feel for him. So there's this, he's supposed to take her for a night on the town. And so she comes to the base, and the Korean guy who's in the American army is friends with Tick, and he brings her in, and he tells her, yeah, you're a common whore. She said, the Tick think I'm a comfort woman. He was like, well, that's the only way you're going to make it on the base, is if you're a whore. I mean, that's easy for her, because we know she's already been a whore. Soliciting men to kill them. So we know playing the whore is easy for her. But she had to be brought into the base under the guise that she was an actual whore. And when you have this whole unveiling of this beautiful thing that Tick does for her, having this movie set up, this private screening of the Judy Garland film, so forth and so on, you immediately have Tick go from being antagonist to protagonist again. And now we go from being Atticus to being Tick again. And we like Tick. And we want good stuff to happen to Tick again. It was just great. So y'all can see I love this episode. This is one of my favorite episodes so far. Great stuff here. So then we have she takes him home, and we have what ends up being the first attempt at sex. Tick reveals to her, hey, I'm a virgin. I ain't never did this before. I'm just letting you know. Which I felt amazing, because I was like, oh. Because we saw how Letty was a virgin when Tick tried to have sex with her, and she's older. And then we see Tick is a virgin in the military. When you would have thought by this point Tick would have already been devirginized, you know what I'm saying? But he was a virgin. He was like, this is my first time. So I like how they show us that, hey, it's okay to be a little older and be a virgin. I'm just saying. Anyway, and then they start to have he gets ready to have sex with her. And she feels, I guess, the Kumiho coming out, and she tells him, get out. She makes him get out. And her mom comes, and Tick is angry with her for kicking him out. The mom is angry with her for not leaving him there and killing him. Excuse me. They have this whole conversation about, I love him, and why can he love me and my best friend love me and you not love me? And the mom is like, well, I can't believe you know, falling in love with somebody who killed your best friend, this, that, and the third. And then they had this whole, remember they had a whole conversation about the mom saying, oh, my daughter's in there, and she started to sing the song, and she was like, your daughter ain't in here at all. I only remember these memories from the memories that, because that's the song that your daughter used to sing right before your husband used to rape her. And I was like, oh. The conversation that they have, the mom and GI, is just like brutal conversations. I'm like, it was like, oh God. So then after that, GI goes to go see Tick, I think the next day or something. And right here, it's about the 47-minute mark, somewhere around there, 47-minute mark to like the 50-minute mark. It's like 3 minutes. But this 3 minutes with GI and Tick in front of that military base is the best 3 minutes of the entire season. If you watch nothing else, you got to see that conversation between Tick and GI in front of that military base. It's at about the 47-minute mark, right? And so she comes there and he tells the people, I don't want her in here. I'm going back in. And then she yells at him, you killed my best friend. And then he comes back and they have this whole conversation. This is back and forth about the fact that she didn't want to love him at first because he killed her best friend. And he was like, well, why didn't you tell me that? Did you try to seduce me? And she was like, I was going to try and kill you, but I ended up falling in love with you. And he was like, I did some horrible things. She was like, you're not a monster and I'm not a monster. And both of them see each other as monsters, but both of them also don't want to just be monsters. And they see that in each other. Both of them think of themselves as monsters, but the other person sees them as more than just a monster. And there's this, both of them are crying and there's tears and there's beautiful acting here. Remarkable acting here, and how they just have that instant connection. How, I mean, I really can't do it any justice and describe that 3 minute portion of the episode, which is my favorite 3 minutes of the entirety of this season so far. But you need to go see that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like at the 47-minute mark. But they're in front of the military base. Great stuff there. Go back and watch it. Anyway, so Tick and GI, they finally have sex. Tick gets devirginized. Baby Tick went by 5 good strokes. And no, I was like, Tick, this is what happens when you wait until you're a grown-ass man to get devirginized. You only go 5 strokes, which is embarrassing. I'm sure GI was laying on top of him like, I know the fuck you lied. All this fine, sexy, chocolatey goodness. And you only go give me 5 good strokes. I know you the fuck lying. I was with you, GI. Anyway, so GI confronts her mom. Next thing I saw was that brought to my attention was GI when she confronted her mom about her mom had the conversation again about how GI don't feel like the mom doesn't want to love her. The mom doesn't want to love her. And because the mom didn't want to love her, GI couldn't even love herself and didn't think anybody else could love her because the mom wouldn't love her. And it wasn't, and I wholly believe that GI is not the Kumiho. I think that is GI. The Kumiho is just in there, and I think this is GI speaking. And what GI is telling her mom is, you could never get past the fact that I was this child that was raped by this horrible man that you allowed to rape me. And every time you look at me, you see in yourself what you allowed to happen, and you don't want to wrap yourself, and you can't love this horrible thing that you allowed to happen. And by loving GI, it's almost like she is okay with all of the bad things that she allowed to happen earlier in her life. The mom. Powerful conversation there. Anyway, GI and Tick, we see seasons go along, you know, winter comes and summer and all, and I think fall or whatever. And so Tick tells GI, listen, I got enough points, I can go home now. And I got a chance to go back home. And he was like, why don't you come with me? And she was like, you don't even know me. Because she tells him the story of what a Kumiho is. She reads him this Korean tale of Kumiho, a fox with 9 tails. And, you know, how it can be in the form of a beautiful woman to avenge, you know, avenge evil men who do horrible things to women or whatever. Anyway, which sounds like a beautiful little, you know, fairy tale or whatever to Tick, I'm sure. But she was really telling him, hey, bitch, that's me. She didn't say that later. She ended up telling him later. So then, they have sex. He asked her to come with him, and she was like, there are things you don't know about me. And he was like, it's nothing you could tell me at this point. I love you. That, you know, there's nothing you could try, you know, love you, this, that, and the third, da, 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 da. They have sex again. This time, I guess Gia did not concentrate well enough, and baby, the Kumiho came out. And that Kumiho took hold of Tick, and I was like, no, not Tick, no. And all you saw the tails come out and it went in his eyes. And when it went in his eyes, she saw his past. And then I think she finally was able to, because she started grabbing the tails, and she was able to, like, I guess, mentally gain control. And so she flips Tick, and Tick is thrown to the other side. But when the tentacles, or not tentacles, the tails came out of his eyes, that was allowing her to see his past, she then started getting visions of his future when he comes to America. And she sees this image of him going back to Chicago and so forth and so on. And what looks like this image of him perhaps dying. He looks to be strapped down in some chair or something. And she sees what she believes is him dying. Now, I take you back to when I told you the Count of Monte Cristo and how she thought she had seen the ending because she saw the movie. But that wasn't the real ending. And she had to be brought to speed to what the real ending, and she could only get the real ending along with Tick when they read it together. And I believe, it's just a hunch, that even though she believed that she saw Tick die, saw Tick's ending, like she believes she saw the ending to the Count of Monte Cristo, it wasn't until like when she experienced the ending of the Count of Monte Cristo with Tick by reading it, I think she is going to end up being united with Tick, and she's going to get the real ending, which may not even be Tick dying, and she may have the whole ending wrong. It's just my thinking. I'm always seeing metaphors. That's the English teacher in me. Anyway, so then we see Tick is, thrown off. Tick is upset. Tick is like, what are you? Tick is afraid, because I would be afraid too. And he's like, oh, he runs out. So forth. Get away from me. He runs out. She yells at him, I'm a Kumiho. And she yells at him, don't go back home. You're going to die if you go home. I just saw it. He ain't trying to hear that. He is so afraid and so thrown off. He just runs out, which I don't blame. I probably would do the same thing. Anyway, so then we see G.I. and her mother. They go to see the shaman lady that put the Kumiho spirit in G.I. And so we have at the end of the episode the antithesis, the complete total opposite of what we saw at the beginning. At the beginning, we saw this beautiful situation where, we have this wonderful image of Judy Garland in all of her splendor and glory. She's in movies and so forth and so on. And while you see these two women walk into this, I think it's called a mudang or whatever, or a shaman, you hear Judy, what that spoken word is Judy Garland talking. And Judy Garland at this point is at the end of her life. She doesn't even sound like herself anymore, but she's at the end of her life. And it's before she died. And she was at that point writing an autobiography of herself. But she's, is her speaking in an interview. She's talking all about how horrible people are and how people have said horrible things about her and assumed awful things about her and have written horrible things about her in the papers and, on television, and how people have said so many horrible things about her. And she says, you just can't understand how horrible people have been to me, how horrible people are. And she loathes at that point her life and being in the spotlight and being this beloved, Hollywood actress, which is the opposite of what Gia would have thought about Judy Garland. Because remember, Gia, when she first met Tick, got a chance to talk to Tick and the Korean guy, she asked him immediately, have you met Judy Garland? Because she's so enamored with Judy Garland, not knowing that Judy Garland hated being Judy Garland. Just great parallels there. Anyway, we see G.I. and the mom. The mom is trying to negotiate with the shaman to get the spirit out of the Kumiho out of G.I. And the shaman was like, girl, I ain't trying to have no part of that. You came over here with 99 soldiers and I told you it was 100. You thought you was going to get some justice? No. Try again. We ain't have no parts of that. So then after that, Gia starts to talk to the shaman. She wants to know, listen, I saw something that I had never seen before. I saw someone's death, but I had never seen someone's death that wasn't caused by me. And so she was like, is he going to die? And so the shaman tells her, listen, you're going to see a whole lot of deaths before it's all over with. And she then tells her, you haven't even become one with the darkness. And what that says to me is, until you fully, and this is just my interpretation, I kind of felt like what she was saying was, I almost felt like she was saying, even if you killed 100 souls, unless you fully embrace the spirit of the Kumiho and become one with the spirit of the Kumiho, you can't rid yourself of the Kumiho. And what I felt that meant was the spirit of the Kumiho will never leave her. She just has to get to the point where she can become one with it and be able to control it and stifle it and not allow it to come out anymore. That's what I interpreted it at. Y'all tell me what y'all interpreted it as, because I could be totally wrong. But I felt that's what she was saying. And that was the whole episode. And it goes off from there. I'm so excited. We only have, 4 more episodes, I believe. So much to do. We still haven't even addressed Hippolyta, which I believe we're going to do next episode. And we'll see what she goes through, searching for what really happened to Uncle George and all that she, encounters with that. Y'all let me know what y'all think of this episode. It was one of my favorite, and I found a lot of people who said this was their least favorite episode, and it was definitely one of my favorites. I'm not going to say the favorite of mine, but one of my favorites. But I definitely had my favorite moment, my favorite 3 minutes of the entire season during this episode. Some of the best acting I've seen thus far. So yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Until next episode, next week, that's all I got. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely. I'm out.